very warm welcome to my Life Winners program tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am going to introduce you a person who has looked at life in a different way. His name is Venerable Brisbane Dhammarakkitha. I met him as a lay person when we were studying in the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Sri Lanka. Both of us were following that BCom Special English Medium degree during the time of 1981 to 1985. He graduated from the university with honor. Subsequently, he also acquired full membership of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka. Not only that, he became a SIMA finalist, that is Chartered Institute of Management Accountants of United Kingdom. He worked as an accountant in Sri Lanka for a period of 5 years, and then he moved to Bahrain, where he was employed as an expat finance personnel for about 10 years. During this time, Venerable has started to practice meditation to cope up with the stress of the work. Finally, he has decided to migrate to Australia for better prospects. තෙරුවන් සරණයි අපේ හාමුදුරුවනේ.
තෙරුවන් සරණයි.
I would like to ask you side of this life journey. Reverend Bante, would you like to tell us some about your life journey regarding your from the inception, where is your hometown and how did you come this journey and all these activities we would like to know tonight.
All right. No, I was born in Anuradhapura, and when I was very young, because of my father's employment, we had to move to Kochikade, Nigambu Kochikade, and from there onwards, it is history. We were brought up there, and that became our, basically the hometown. And from there only, I went to the university, and you gave a very good introduction of basically my career. And if I take from there, and all of you, at least you are aware that I had a relationship in the university, and we got married and had 2 kids, and all of them are in Brisbane with the Upasakanona, and both of them are very well settled. And son is a paramedic, and my daughter is a corporate controller. And when I was working in Bahrain, I got very much interested in Buddhism and started practicing there itself. And I was following with many teachers, and then it moved on and came to this climax. So that is the brief history about myself.
Okay, thank you very much, Ape Hamdrone. And I heard that you are doing some Satibhavana programs according to your journey and according to your actually activities. Now, I would like to ask one question tonight, another question actually regarding the Satibhavana program. If anyone is interested in organizing Satibhavana program, how can they contact you, Ape Hamdrone?
Yes, the contact is very simple. We have many ways to contact. And let me share the screen so that I can show you our visiting card, both in Sinhala and English. And let me, can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same here, double click Satibhavana. 077134771 077134771 That is Sri Lanka organizing number.
Yeah, that is our Sri Lanka organizer. And then there is an email. If you want, anyone can email us. We have a Facebook, we have a website, we have YouTube, and in addition to that, you can use this Zoom link and join at these times. So we will be having sessions online. And in addition to that, so this is our English, if someone wants in English. So these are the details of contact details in English.
Right. Thank you very much, Apya. Now, I would like to ask some more questions regarding this program. Now, can you please briefly elaborate something about your Satibhavana program, Apihamdurani? Because most of the people do not know this experience in Sri Lanka, but some of them they have experience. But according to your mouth, according to your actually experience, what kind of information you are giving through Satibhavana program?
Yeah, no, it's a good question because today, when we not only in Sri Lanka, anywhere in the world where the Buddhist culture exists, and of course, Sri Lanka is fairly safe at the moment compared to some of the other Buddhist countries. And in the name of Buddha or in the name of Buddhism, things that are happening are not exactly what the Buddha has taught. Of course, he has taught us charity. He has taught us morality. He has taught us meditation. And in addition to that, he has also mentioned that having a lot of offerings and a lot of pujas is also part of the practice. Not that these are really wrong, but they are there. But so far as the teaching is concerned, teaching is going far beyond. When I look at the teaching, what I basically do is I compare the spiritual teachers or spiritual leaders or spirituality that existed before Buddha and what improvement or what did Buddha find which the other people had not find. So in that exploration, what I found was before Buddha, all these things were there. All the pujas were there. All the offerings were there. All the charity work was there. A lot of dana was there. And everyone, most of the people were observing precepts. So the morality was there and the people were meditating. And also, I would say there were people who were mindful as well. So, although we call it Sati Bhavana or the meditation of mindfulness or mindfulness meditation, one may argue that the meditation or the mindfulness has been there before Buddha because some of the Buddha's teachers had achieved even the eighth absorption, eighth jhana. So, you can't come to eighth jhana without mindfulness. So therefore, there is a very clear justification that the mindfulness has been there even before Buddha. So the question is, what did Buddha introduce to the world? So what Buddha introduced to the world is very tiny missing link that the other teachers did not have because of their craving. The tiny missing link is you can't simply have mindfulness. The mindfulness that you are having has got to be perpetual. So the perpetual mindfulness, according to Buddha, he says, keeping the mindfulness to the fore, sating parimukha, satiya peratuva, elambi satiya. So this is the real teaching of the Buddha. And the other people, although they had the mindfulness, when the practice was developing, according to their abilities, they went higher up in the practice. But higher you go, better is the experience and higher is the craving as well at the same time, unless you give the mindfulness to the fore. So they get caught up in that comfort. They get caught up in that pleasure and become victim to the craving, even after being mindful. Unless you keep the mindfulness to the fore, unless your driving force is mindfulness. So to answer your question, what we are teaching is, of course, mainly we introduce what mindfulness is. And then what I do is I take usually 2 days. On the first day, I introduce mindfulness and put them into practice. And on the second day, I introduce the perpetuity of mindfulness, how you keep the mindfulness to the fore. So that is for non-residential retreats. When we are conducting residential retreats, of course, we introduce both of these and then go to the higher levels of practice. and explain them how the practice progresses to the liberation. So this is the approach that we are taking, and we have basically residential and non-residential retreats. And in order to help the practitioners, we usually have these online sessions. Wherever I have a session, I'll give it online so that whoever who is practicing will be able to join and present their questions and get involved in the discussions and get more and more knowledge about the continuing practice. So this is the approach we are having in our mindfulness meditation sessions. Teruvan Saran.
Yes, Sape Hamduruni. Now, I would like to ask one direct question. This is actually, do you visit all around Sri Lanka for these purposes, Satibhavana programs?
I have no restrictions. It depends on where the invitation is coming from. So I get invitations from down south. I get invitations from hill country. So wherever, it doesn't matter. I will be going and helping the folks to come out of the suffering. And not only that, I go even out of the island. In some of the other countries also, I'm conducting my sessions. There are organizers, as you may have seen, in North America and even in Australia. So wherever I get the invitation from, I will be going there and conducting the sessions.
Okay, Ape Hamduruni. Now, I will ask my tonight final questions. Now, actually, I know according to my knowledge, you are a chartered accountant as well as you are university graduate, become special English medium. You did on not only that, CIMA qualified London exams. Now, for the moment, actually, any country's development activities, being a finance person and practicing Buddhist, do you think this Satibhavana and Buddhist teaching will hinder the development of a country?
The simple answer is no. The
No.
Buddhism does not restrict or hinder the development of a country. In fact, it's the other way around. It supports. It not only it supports. It can be used even for sustainable development, which the world is lacking today. So, having said that, it is not restricting the development. Let me give a bit of a justification for it. We will have to first understand what the prime teaching is, as I mentioned a little while earlier. From what we see and from what we hear and from what we do, some people may get confused what the teaching is. Is it pujas, or is it dana, or is it sila, or is it bhavana? People might wonder what the actual teaching is. Actual teaching is neither of those. Actual teaching is, as I said, it is the mindfulness practice. That is the prime teaching of the Buddha. And it is not only the mindfulness, it is to keep the mindfulness to the fore. Keep mindfulness in the driving seat of your life's vehicle. So when you do that, we'll have to understand what exactly mindfulness is. So I have a very concise definition of mindfulness, which is being aware of here, now, I am. So when you are able to be aware of this tiny point in the universe, then you are mindful. But it is easier said than done. So for simplicity, I would say mindfulness is self-awareness, which develops some great human qualities, such as non-reactional physical, verbal, and mental attributes. And when you practice self-awareness, they will have huge energy conservation and generation. I'm not talking about the energy that comes from solar or that comes from electricity. It is the mental energy that each and every living being is having. and that energy we are wasting so much, and that energy is being misappropriated so much. So we can conserve that energy and in fact generate more energy and better energy when you are a self-aware person. And not only that, when you are self-aware, another great human quality that you will have will be the opportunity to see your own mistakes. So this is a very important thing in today's society. It is not only for economic development, for any society. We are saying we are passing laws, we are passing regulations, we are passing a lot of enactments to control the world and to control the society. But unless someone really says that that person is having some weaknesses within him, you can't correct a society just with the lawmaking and the punishments. So, therefore, when you are self aware, it's a great opportunity for someone to see their own weakness. And also, when you see the weakness, that person himself will naturally develop the shame and fear of his weakness. So that shame and fear will naturally give him a sense restrainment and then avoid the friction that he has been creating for himself. So these attributes are really, really helpful for economic development of a country. And also, when a person is self-aware, he's not a moral person, he becomes an energetic person, and he becomes a wise individual. So therefore, a new person will be born when someone starts practicing mindfulness. I'm not saying when you advance and when you come to a climax of the practice. Even when you start, you immediately start seeing the benefit of the practice. So such a person is an asset to any community. It is forget about economic development. He becomes an asset. He becomes a role model for every society. So one example is, I remember, I'm not saying I was an asset. I'm trying to give an example from my life. When I was working in Australia in one of the recognized universities, they gave me a lot of work, and I just kept doing them. And when I start work, I just in my head I say I'm working, and get into the mode. I just keep working. After 2.5 years, they told me we had given you more work than you can do, but you did them so well and you were so at ease. And what's the secret about it? Then I told them, I'm not fighting with the work. I'm just with myself and just carry on with the work instead of fighting with the work. So that is because I had the self awareness. And if I fight with the work, I know that I'm not fighting with the work. I'm fighting with negative energies that I have. So when you are self aware, when those negative energies arise, you feel the friction that you are undergoing. So when you feel the friction that you are undergoing, if you love yourself, and you will first correct that. You want to come out of your own suffering that you are creating. So this is the key that the mindfulness will give, and that is how the people will be energized. And when the people are energized, and of course they will naturally be very, very efficient people. And unfortunately, the present corporate world is trying to use mindfulness just for this purpose. But mindfulness is going far, far beyond the efficiency in the office and at the workplace. So the question is how it brings out development. So how it brings out development is when the society or when people are mindful, their productivity will be definitely higher, as I just explained in my simple example, and their imagination is going to be so great. And as a result, you will have unbelievable innovations from such people. And another most important thing of a mindful person would be their emotional intelligence will be exceptional, because since you understand yourself well, since you understand your friction well, you can relate that very easily to the society and to the other people and the other relationships that you have. So therefore you will have a tremendous emotional intelligence. And they have sensitive environmental literacy as well, because you are more with yourself, and then you know how you are felt when you disturb the environment. So therefore this is a great thing for the current environmental pollutions and environmental erosions that we have due to so-called economic development we have today. And another attribute that they will have is, and I think this is the best attribute that they will have to challenge the current way of development. And such people, the mindful people, the self aware people, are content with less. And we have never learned the word enough. We always want more, because that's what the business world says. That's what our economists say. They want to create demand as much as possible, because when the demand is created, they know the market is created, and then it goes on. But so far as Buddhist teaching is concerned, it's the other way around. So this is the radical way of looking at economic development from the real teaching of the Buddha. So these qualities may not only generate economic development, but such development will be sustainable, since the qualities are generated by voluntary attitude change instead of laws, rules, and regulations.
Okay.
So one may argue that when I said people are content with less, and one may argue that being passive and being content with less will result in the contraction of demand. I'm not going to counter argue that. I agree. It will definitely contract the demand. But this is where it gets very interesting. This is where the Buddha is a radical person, and he's the most radical person lived in the universe. He was not driven by demand and supply theory.
Yes.
He demanded less. And this economists will not digest these things, I'm 100% sure. He
Okay.
demanded less, and consequently, waste was avoided. And just look at, go to a supermarket and see how many types of breads you have, and see the amount of chicken stock you have. And when these are utter waste. And some chicken may have been living in the refrigerator more than they were alive. And so much of accumulation and so much of waste. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I can keep on going to show the waste that the demand-driven society is doing. So the waste will be avoided. And when the waste is avoided, it is not just the waste avoided, options for the available resources can be enhanced. Since the demand is less, you will be producing less, but you can use these available resources so much better things instead of competing. So a good economist would love this scenario, since it creates strong self-sufficiency, not only for our generations, for so many generations to come. Today, as you know, the typical example in Sri Lanka, for how many years we have made our generations indebted. We are
Right.
consuming and we are eating the generations of the future. So the
Right.
current economics is based on NC equals MR, as we all know. So the resource users will try to squeeze the supply as much as possible, And to keep the marginal cost low on one hand, and on the other, the suppliers will try to give the minimum or charge as high as possible to keep their MC equals MR higher. When I say MC equal MR, it is marginal cost equals marginal revenue, which most of the economists and those who have done commerce would know. So it's a system of destruction physically and mentally, since the candle is burning from both the ends, because everyone wants to maximize, optimize their MC equal MR. So everybody will be fighting and competing. So as a result, we are burning ourselves without, just because of the system. So this
Right.
equally applies to MR as well. So do you want to call this development? The real development must bring happiness to all.
Mm.
Happiness is a mental phenomenon which will be enriched by self-awareness. We think material development is development. Neglect of mental development has created tools and opportunities to destroy the world faster than its construction, unfortunately. The sum total of the current development is unfortunately therefore negative. So the Buddha has the perfect development strategy for both physical and mental. That is why he is the supreme of the
Mm.
human beings. So the development is not a better GDP or per capita income or higher gold reserves or a strong currency. These
Right.
numbers should be supported by mental development to
Okay,
make
Abhinandan.
citizens happy. So the
Yes.
key for such a sustainable development is self-awareness, which is beyond sectarianism, no matter what your religion, race, caste, complexion, gender is. So therefore, self-aware society will be contributing more to the economic development. And in conclusion, I would say self-awareness, one size fits all. It's the duty of the policymakers and rulers to create the necessary vibration. Most importantly, such
Mm.
people must train and must practice themselves. Otherwise, it will be like crab mother's advice. The actions must speak louder for sustainable development based on prime teaching of the Buddha. So I know this is a radical answer, very radical answer, and most of the economists may not understand. But I, being a finance person, and I have seen both the worlds, and that is why I am a monk now. I know I have seen I see the happiness we have here with less. So, but of course, that is not a restriction to the development. That is a blessing for the development. So, blessing of the noble triple gem to all of you.
Okay, Abhinandan. It is very interesting lecturer. Actually, I would like to further continue, but the problem is due to time constraint, we have to wind up now. Now, ultimately, I would like to tell Namo Buddhaya, Teruvan Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.
So it is my heartful pleasure and I have a pleasant feeling of your arrival to my life in a program tonight. For most of the human being betterment, you serve this by sacrificing your valuable time. Not only that, you have visited here and spent a lot of time. I wish you a very happy and prosperous tomorrow with. Okay, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, you know Venerable Bante is a valuable gem to a country like Sri Lanka. Through his Satibhavana program, his idea is to fulfill our moving mental situation into a stable condition. We wish him a very long life. With this, I am going to conclude the Life Winners program tonight, and we will meet next week another wonderful episode with an existing life winner. Until then, take care and goodbye. Thank you.